Remember like 5 years ago when EVs were supposed to change everything? Clean energy, zero emissions, silent streets, dolphins high-fiving in the background. Fast forward to today and this whole revolution thing kind of pulled up late, undercooked, lame excuse as to why things aren't working out. Kind of like my ex-wife. Let's check on the electric dream. 7 huge promises and 7 huge EV failures. Let's start with number 1, the infrastructure. That's like the most glaring thing there. I mean, if you can't even sustain the cars that you make, then why are we doing this anyways? You got a Wi-Fi hotspot in your car with no active subscription, sitting in a Chick-fil-A parking lot waiting for your car to charge. Unless you drive a Tesla, you're absolutely cooked. And here's why. Teslas like live in a gated little community. It's like Mac users almost. They have the supercharger network. It's kind of exclusive, reliable, and 95% of the time it just works. But everybody else has to compete in the charging Hunger Games. Chargers that show up on the map but don't exist in real life. Stations that are offline but will still accept your credit card. Apps that crash, they reload, ask for 2-factor authentication, and update themselves mid-session. Then you have kiosks that reboot like they just blue screened on the old Windows XP. According to J.D. Power's 2024 EVX study, over 20% of charging attempts fail entirely. In California, EV Paradise, 27% of the fast chargers were completely non-functional. What happens if you plan a road trip? According to the US Department of Energy, 40% of US counties do not have public charging available at all, like at all. Even in counties with 25,000 plus people, 14% of those counties still have none. That's not infrastructure, that's a scavenger hunt with a dead battery as the prize. And for all the people saying, just get a Tesla, yeah, about that. Tesla kind of did it first, let's give it to them, but their cars are kind of lackluster. There's a lot of other ones out there that are just built better. Tesla builds its own charging network, and it works fairly well. No apps, no logins, no waiting in front of a BMW dealership with Bluetooth issues. But everybody else has to use Electrify America, ChargePoint, EVgo, Shell Recharge, and the off-brand sketchy one that's behind a Waffle House running Android 6. None of these talk to each other, and half of them don't even work on their own. By 2024, Ford, GM, and Rivian all just kind of gave up and said they were going to use Tesla's charging standard, the NACS. But most non-Teslas still need an adapter because you can't use the supercharger network. It's a completely different plug. It just doesn't work. But access is limited. And now Teslas are getting flooded with randos from other brands. We didn't really solve the problem. We just made everybody kind of fight over the better outlets. It's not even cheap though. Everybody thinks that it's cheap. It's only cheap if you do it at your house during off-peak hours. At one of these public fast chargers, 100 miles of range equals about $14 to $21. Speaking in gas terms, it's like $11 to $13 for the same 100 miles in most states. So you're paying more, you're waiting longer, and you're still wondering why the charger is asking for an update mid-session. Charging an EV in 2025 is like ordering DoorDash and then waiting 30 minutes for your order to be wrong and it's cold. False promise number 2. Battery tech is advanced and ready to go. You've heard this one too many times. Batteries are amazing now. They barely degrade. But here's the real story in 2025. Battery tech isn't bad. It's just nowhere near where they said it would be. Let's break it down for a second. Battery degradation is real. Most automakers claim that their batteries will last 100,000 to 150,000 miles. Most EVs lose about 10 to 20% of their range within the first few years. Some models actually lose up to like 25% depending on your climate, charging habits, and overall usage. Yeah, that 300-mile EV that you bought in 2018 is down to 230 miles downhill with the AC off on a full charge. And if you're in a place with colder winters, you lose even more. Cold weather can slash your EV's range by 30%, according to EV testers like AAA and Consumer Reports. Gas cars don't do that, ever. So congratulations. You own a $50,000 golf cart that does really bad below 40 degrees. And when the battery dies, game over. This is where things get a little bit ugly. Because if your EV battery goes out after the warranty ends, you're done. You're SOL, pal. It's every millennial's worst nightmare, being 100% financially responsible. Most replacements are costing between $10,000 and $25,000. That's just, Most dealers will actually refuse to replace individual modules and only replace the entire battery. That's not low maintenance. That's unfixable. And unless you're driving a Tesla or something with a massive support network, you're not just finding that battery on Craigslist and doing it yourself. It's the modern equivalent of throwing out your entire car because your fuel tank cracked. And don't even get me started on battery recycling. You'd think with all this talk of sustainability that they'd have a good plan for what happens when a battery finally kicks the bucket. No. We're still building millions of electric vehicles with no end-of-life solution, just hoping that everything works itself out before the whole landfill catches on fire. Less than 5% of lithium batteries are actually recycled. Most EV battery packs are glued shut, closed in, and nightmare to disassemble. And there's still no scalable, profitable way to recycle these batteries. There's just a lot of press releases that say that they're working on it. Until that changes, every EV is basically a eco time bomb with 4 wheels and Spotify Premium. Battery tech isn't advanced. It's expensive, fragile, and fading faster than an iPhone in a snowstorm. Not that it really matters though, because most of these eco warriors are just gonna be trading their cars in 2 or 3 years anyways. The average EV is traded after just 2.4 years, compared to 6.5 years for the average gas car. That's not sustainability, folks. That's just tech bro consumerism with a green filter. False promise number 3. EVs are affordable. You've heard this one in every press release, ad campaign, and news segment.
EVs are getting cheaper. EVs are for everyone.
Here's the truth. EVs are not affordable. They are subsidized. Just remember, it came with a $7,500 coupon stapled to it. And that sweet $7,500 off? Yeah, poor Martha the taxpayer paid for it. She drives a 2012 Camry with Dave Ramsey podcast playing on the radio. She didn't ask to be your climate sponsor, but somehow she is, despite her most valiant efforts and conservative consumerism. Even the requirements for the tax break are kind of entertaining though. As of 2025, you need the following to qualify. An income under $150,000 or $300,000 joint. An EV car that costs under $55,000 or an EV truck that cost under 80 grand, and batteries sourced from a friendly nation, whatever that means this month. So yeah, the credit's still there. But between the fine print and the supply chain politics, half of EVs don't qualify. And the owners don't either. Remember all those affordable EVs that they promised earlier? These were supposed to be cars that made EVs accessible, affordable for the mass market, for the everyday Joe like myself. Instead, they vanished faster than a tax rebate and a bad zip code. And what replaced them? A bunch of oversized crossovers and demos and weird looking SUVs that pretend to be green while running 22-inch wheels and 0 to 60 times that nobody asked for. Meanwhile, the few EVs that are still under $40,000 have stripped interiors, software-locked features, a laughable range. Or worse, they're still on dealer lots. I'm looking at you, Dodge, with your stupid Hornet. Next, there's the value drop that nobody asked for. These cars are plummeting in value. A car is only as good as its power source or its battery in this case. Resale prices are doing a nosedive off the cliff. Most people don't want a pre-owned electric car. Why would I get another one that somebody's already driven? And buyers are really hesitant to touch anything that's out of warranty. There's a huge question mark under the floor that you don't know how much it's going to cost you. Dealers are basically just sitting on EV inventory like it's radioactive. They can't give them away. In 2025, manufacturers like Ford and GM are basically slashing production and cutting down on their EVs' overall output. We've seen companies delaying launches because they just don't have the market for it. The bottom line is basically the budget EV was never supposed to be long-term. It was bait. They wanted to reel you into the lifestyle, then raise the prices. Now that all the affordable ones are gone, basically all you have are luxury items that move like bricks. False promise number 4, EVs are low maintenance. You think to yourself, okay, it only has one moving part, or with dual motors, 2 moving parts. There's not much that can go wrong, right? Wrong. No oil changes, no maintenance, less drama? Here's the problem. EVs were pitched as simple, and most of us bought into that. But when something breaks, you need specialized equipment, certified techs, basically a computer scientist that understands what code this thing's throwing. You get repairs that cost more than the car's value. And in some states, insurance will just completely total the vehicle if there's any battery damage involved at all. There are EVs with minor fender benders that are getting totaled out because none of these shops want to deal with the high voltage battery packs. Basically, you're not buying a car anymore, you're just leasing a giant iPad with a time bomb underneath the floor. And when it breaks, you're not calling a mechanic. You're calling your bank, your insurance adjuster, and Martha, whose 2012 Camry still works. False promise number 5. EVs hold their value. This one's kind of laughable because honestly, nobody wants a used EV anymore. They told you EVs were the future. What they didn't tell you is that nobody wants to inherit your second-hand lithium gamble. Used EVs aren't just depreciating. They're panic selling themselves on Facebook Marketplace as soon as the warranty ends. Tesla Model 3 and Model Ys drop 30 to 40% in under 2 years. Most all dealers are overstocked. They can't sell them. Some dealerships won't even buy certain cars because of how unpredictable the value is going to be. It might be worth something to somebody, but it might be worth absolutely nothing to everybody else. Lease returns are piling up because it's not just about price, it's about the uncertainty. Will the battery make it through another winter? What's the actual range of my car? How much does it cost to fix anything. EVs age like tech, not like cars. It's like as soon as the new iPhone's out, your phone is worth like maybe $100. Most EV battery warranties are 8 years or 100,000 miles. But here's the twist. Buyer interest does not wait that long to completely vanish. The drop-off starts way earlier, around year 3 to 5. Right when the lease ends, the battery wear starts showing, the range starts dropping, and the tech feels outdated. And every new rattle is just a little bit suspicious. The industry knows what's up. That's why lease deals exploded in 24 and 25. Car makers don't want you to keep these things long term. They'd rather you just turn it in and lease the latest model. And the manufacturers are trying to get you to buy the next one before you realize how bad the last one was. That's not sustainability, folks. That's planned obsolescence in a different font. Used EVs aren't hidden gems. Nobody's going out on long trips looking for a used EV. Nobody's looking at the old Tesla Model S and thinking, dang, if I could just get my hands on one of those, I'll be set for the next couple of years. It just doesn't work like that. People are Hellcat swapping those, by the way. They're all tech hand-me-downs with an unknown expiration date. And the people who don't think about stuff like this, they're learning the hard way, and it costs them a lot of money to do so, which sucks. False promise number 6. The market is shifting. People want EVs. People are demanding electric. Consumers are making the switch. No, they're not. What's happening in 2025 isn't consumer demand. It's corporate compliance wearing a green name tag. If EVs were truly winning the market, they wouldn't need the $7,500 tax rebate or the manufacturers giving you $10,000 to $15,000 off MSRP. If people want the cars, they'll pay sticker for them. It's like buying an M3. People are gonna go out of their way to buy one of those. If they have one available, somebody is in line to buy it. That's demand. But even with all of these crazy rebates, they still can't move the metal. Manufacturers are starting to slash production targets. With the new tariffs, they're just completely cutting on production altogether. Tesla cut prices more in the last year than Netflix raised theirs. Ford paused their F-150 Lightning expansion. I have people that are trying to trade those in all the time and they can't trade them in. The negative equity is too much. GM has delayed the Silverado EV rollout. You don't see this when products are actually flying off the shelves. When people want these things, they're gonna come get them. Automakers missed their EV targets so bad, even the clapped out Miata group started reaching out for support. Ford's EV division lost over $5 billion in 2024. And they've publicly walked back future production goals. I mean, why wouldn't they? GM backed off its promise to build 1 million EVs by 2025. Volkswagen and Mercedes quietly walked back their EV objectives after Europe and China completely missed their objective. Even JD Power said that EVs would drop by 27% if that $7,500 tax rebate wasn't there anymore. If you have to bribe the market to adopt something, it's not a trend. Also, mandates do not equal market demand. So why are EV sales holding at all? Because in many states and countries, automakers are being forced to sell them to hit EV targets. California is phasing out gas cars by 2035. I mean, how is that gonna go? They're gonna walk that back, and if not, I mean, people are already leaving that state anyways. That place is trash. The EPA keeps tightening emissions rules. With all the regulations and limits, it's literally cheaper to sell EVs at a loss than pay the fines on V8s. That's why we see companies like Dodge completely abandoning what they do best, which is Hellcat engines, 6.4 scats. I mean, that's what everybody wants from Dodge. They don't want their stupid Chargers. I mean, they're stupid. They look dumb. Nobody wants an electric charger that glitches whenever you rev it.
The sound glitching on that. Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
This isn't market pressure. This is bureaucratic cattle herding. Because you're not choosing electric. You're being quietly funneled towards it, whether it's through budget reasons or just because it sounds interesting. The EV market isn't growing right now. It's quietly being propped up. False promise number 7, and this has to be my favorite. EVs are saving the planet. No, they're not. It's not about horsepower. It's not about 0 to 60 times. It's about saving the earth. Yeah, right. Great bedtime story. Too bad the math woke up and chose violence. The supply chain is not clean. If you do any kind of digging into this, you'll understand. EVs don't run on magic and fairy dust. They run on lithium, cobalt, nickel, graphite, and manganese, mined across multiple continents. Now here's where it gets interesting, everybody. They are refined and shipped with diesel-powered logistics, fossil fuels, often under low wage, high pollution, ethically questionable conditions. And yes, China controls most of that supply chain. While your EV might feel good and it might not have any tailpipe emissions, the mining, refining, and shipping and logistics and everything that goes into this is a bigger carbon footprint and worse for the environment than your beautiful ICE car will ever be. You didn't switch from gas to green. You outsourced your emissions so you wouldn't see them, and then you called it progress. You did a great job. You made India dirtier. Basically, battery production is so much worse for the environment. It's an emissions bomb. Building one EV battery produces 3 to 15 tons of CO2, depending on the size of the battery and the factory that it's coming out of. That's more than a gas car produces in 2 years of driving. Unless your EV runs long enough on clean power, it will never offset its own footprint. Remember when we talked about battery recycling earlier? Less than 5% of batteries are recycled, everybody. What happens to the other ones? Meanwhile, internal combustion got smarter. New gas cars emit 99% fewer emissions than they did in the 70s. And that's all according to the EPA. The planet-saving narrative isn't about actually doing anything. It's just marketing. EVs are not zero emissions. They're somebody else's emissions. You just don't see the smokestack in your driveway. Until the grid gets cleaner, batteries get better, and recycling is actually a thing for the batteries, you're not saving the world. You're just leasing a lie. So, what did we learn? The charging stations do not always work. The cars end up costing you more than your firstborn. Resale values are basically flushed down the toilet. And the green halo that you're wearing, brother, it's built overseas, patched with wishful thinking, and held together with the fragile hope that nobody asks too many questions. Like this video, share it to somebody who's shopping for an EV, or send it to a congresswoman or Elon. And if you believe in red line over regulation, fuel over firmware, and rebellion over compliance, welcome to the resistance.
You feel that?
Guys, if you like the merch, check this out. Look at this. See that? It's a dinosaur inside of a gas can. It's not Dino juice, stupid.